Give a quick walkthrough today of how to declare arrays in Java and then also some array basics. A quick one-line definition of what an array is it's a way of holding multiple values of the same type, and you're able to do this all in one variable. So let's say you had a couple prices in your program. One price would be 40, another price would be 90, and then you had a final price that is 180. So three different prices. And if you wanted to pass your prices to a function, you'd have to write out price 1, price 2, price 3. And then sometimes if you had like a huge number of prices, let's say 7 or 9 prices, maybe 90 prices even, just keeping track of them through variables wouldn't work. You'd want one variable to keep track of them all, and that's where arrays come in. They're a way of holding multiple values of the same type in one variable. So now let me show you the syntax of creating an array. The syntax would be to specify the type, use these square brackets to indicate to Java that you have an array. You'd put the name of the variable you want to create, in this case a price array. You put the equal sign, the new keyword, the type again, the square brackets, but this time inside it the length, and then you'd finish it off like any line with a semicolon. That's it. That's how you create an array of length 3 in Java. Notice that you have to specify the length of the array here, and that's because arrays are what we call fixed length. Once you create it, you can change the length. So this price array over here will always be length 3. It can't ever be length 5. So that's one of the things to note about arrays. They're fixed size. So now that we have this empty array, you may be wondering, okay, what's actually in this empty array? And one of the things you can do to see that is just print it out. So let's print out this array. So to print out this array, I'm going to say system.out.println, and then I'm going to pass to it arrays.toString price array. So this is the syntax we have to print out an array in Java. And notice this red highlighting over the word arrays, and that's because I have to import that class. My editor gives me a helpful tooltip that if you don't have that, you can just add this line to the top of your file. Import java.util.arrays. And this is the function we use in Java to print out different arrays. So let's run that, and we can see what an empty array looks like. It looks like there are 3 values there, all set to 0. So it looks like the 3 reflects the number of values we see in our array. So what if we made that 6? Well, we see 6 zeros, and indeed, yes, we see 6 zeros. So that's where the length of the array comes in. But they're all initialized to 0, which is the starting value of ints. It's the initial value. If it was a double, it would be 0.0. If it's a boolean, it would be false. And if it's any kind of object, it would be null. Now, we need to actually put values into that array, and I'll show you how to do that. To put a value into the array, to set a value into an array, you take the name of the array, you'd use these square brackets to index into them, and you'd pass in the index you'd want to change. So let's say I want to change this first value of the array to be 40. I'd put in 0 actually, the equal sign, and then the value I want to put in there. So arrays are what we call 0-based indexed, or the indexing is 0-based, meaning that first 0 is actually referring to the initial value. 1 refers to the second value, 2 refers to the third value. So when you start counting the indexes, instead of counting like with 1 as we do in natural life, you start at 0. So this is the 0th index, it's the first index, the second index. So let's finish this off and assign all the values into the price array. And like that, we'd have assigned an array with values 40, 90, and 180. Another way you can actually create this array is if you already know all the values you have. Let's comment this out for now, get back to our initial empty array, and I'll show you one other way you can create this array with 40, 90, and 180. So instead of the syntax for new int 3, you can actually define inside curly braces the value you want to put in your array. So I already know the values I want. I want a 40, I want a 90, and I want a 180. So if I run that, you can see that I was able to create that same int array with 40, 90, 180, and because I'd commented out these lines, that's it. With one line, I was able to create and assign actually all the values I want in my array. And one of the things that's cool about this is you don't just have to use literal numbers. You can use variables that you have. So let's say you want to use price2 in here instead of 90. You can do that. If you had a variable called price2 equal to 90, you can use that in there. Yep, same thing works. And just to show you that this is indeed picking up the right value, let me change price2 to 902. And indeed, it is using that correct value of price2 to set up that array that we have. So showed you how to create arrays 2 different ways, also set values of arrays. The last thing that would be kind of helpful to do is get just one value of an array. And the way you do that is very similar to how you set values into an array. So let's, for example, print out the last value of the array. So we have this price array, and we want to index into it using this index square brackets notation, and then also the index we want. The last value of the array is not index 0, it's not index 1, it's index 2. So if we run this now, our array of 40, 902, and 180, we're printing out price array 2. We correctly get 180, which is the value at that second index. So let's take a moment to step back and see that price array, the name of the array, the square brackets in the index, is used both to set values in the array and get values in the array. The key distinction between the two is you're getting values most of the time. The only time in which you are setting the value in an array is if there's an equal sign and if the square brackets are to the left-hand side of it. Yep, and that's your quick introduction and basic usage of an array in Java. Thanks for watching.